Okay, for number two, I want to claim this is a tough question. It gives you a system of equations, two unknowns, a variety of ways of doing it, by the way. But the one thing I noticed about immediately is symmetric. And what do I mean by that? If you replace x and y, you get the same exact equations. It wouldn't change. One of the recommendations in a symmetric equation is to make substitutions. And you might say it's making it much more difficult because you're saying x is two different variables and y is two different variables. But this will often make a problem a lot easier to look at. All right, so what I want to do is I want to talk about some of the features, if I made that, what would make this thing nice. And I want to just, maybe rewrite these guys a little tiny bit. And because I know how to factor a cubic, and that's going to be x plus y. And then you'd have x squared minus xy plus y squared. And then you'd have x plus y. And that would equal 112. And the second equation, I'm just going to write down x squared plus xy plus y squared is equal to 13. So what I want to claim over here, looking at that I need a couple different things. I certainly need to know what x plus y is. I see it all over the place, by the way. I'll write that down for you. Well, these are my substitutions. X plus y would be, let's say, just be 2u. What else do I need? Well, I need x squared plus y squared. So let's write that down. X squared plus y squared. I'm seeing that all over the place too, by the way. What's x squared plus y squared? Well, it's going to be, u plus v squared. Well, it's going to be u squared plus 2uv plus v squared. That's the x squared, by the way. And what's the y squared going to be? U squared minus 2uv plus v squared. So x squared plus y squared is equal to 2u squared plus 2v squared. All right, so I need that. What else do I need? I need the product xy. What's the product xy? Well, it's pretty easy. It's just simply u squared minus v squared. So there's a couple of things I need, and I'll point out what I need. I need this. I need x squared plus y squared. And I need this to make the substitution. So I want to do that. I want to get my eraser out and erase things I don't need anymore. Give me 1 second to do that. And again, some students can do that in their head, but that's fine. So let's write this down. And I'll tell you what I'm doing. I'm just making a substitution here and here. And I'm hoping it's going to be really easy to do, by the way. So x plus y is 2u. Let's see, the second factor, I get an x squared plus y squared. That's 2u squared plus 2v squared. And then you have a minus xy, so that's minus u squared plus v squared. And then you get another x plus y, and what's that? That's 2u. And what's it equal to? 112. All right, now certainly looking at that, I have 2u squared, so that would be 4u squared, right? Let me get my eraser out. Let me go back to my pen. And this would be what? It would be u squared plus 3v squared equals 112. I'm going to divide both sides by 4. So you're going to get u squared plus 3v squared equals, well, 4 goes into 112. Let me put this down for you. 4 into 112. That's 2. That gives you 8. And you get 32, and that gives you 8 now. So I get 28. All right, let me show you this is written down for you. And this is right over here. This is an important fact, by the way. After I made that substitution, you get u squared times, and it's simpler to look at, by the way, than when I originally, u squared plus 3v squared equals 28. So that seemed to work out okay. And again, we're just working over the key. And that's part of your learning process, to work over a key to see what happens. All right, let's keep moving. And I want to do the second equation now and plug in there. So the second equation I see is x squared plus y squared. That's 2u squared plus 2v squared. Then they got the plus xy. And xy is going to be u squared minus v squared. And that's equal to number 13. What do you get over there? Let's see, 3u squared plus v squared is equal to 13. Let me show you where that's written. That's written right over here. All right? So I'm pretty satisfied with that I could actually do that without too much struggle, by the way. I'm going to get my eraser out and start to erase things I don't need anymore. I don't want to see my chicken scratch anymore. I'm going to erase this also. I got that. I felt good about that. So what I want to do now is kind of use, I'm going to erase this too, by the way. I don't need to do that anymore either. My highlighting there. So what I want to do is look at these two equations now. There's still two unknowns in it, by the way. And the two unknowns are u and v. And I'm going to take that this equation here and solve for v squared. And what would v squared equal to? It would equal 13 minus 3u squared. And then I would take this, and I pop into that equation there. Let's write that down. You get u squared plus 3 times v squared. Well, that's 39, because 3 times 13 is 39, minus 9u squared, and that's going to equal 28. What I'm going to do now is continue to simplify it. So you get u squared, and then you can get 39 minus 8u squared is equal to 28. And again, it's getting a little bit simpler for me now. I see 39u squared minus 8u fourth power is equal to 28. I'm going to rearrange this more. It's going to be 8u to the fourth. And then you're going to get, minus 8u to the fourth plus 39u squared minus 28 equals 0. I like to get rid of the leading coefficient that's negative, make it positive, multiplying both sides by minus 1. And let me show where that's written. It's written right over here. All right? And it's problematic now. Someone says, what are you going to do with that? It's fourth degree polynomial. There's many things you could do, but what I'm going to claim over here is I want to try to factor it. All right? And let's go through that step by step. So I would say, maybe it's going to factor using integers. Let's see what happens. And you get, I'm going to say 8u squared, u squared. I'm going to say 4 and 7 minus. I'm going to check it. That does give me 8u to the fourth power. That's minus 28 and 7. Minus 32 and 7, minus 39. And I do get plus 28. So I get solutions over here. I'll put them out to you. This guy over here, u would have to be equal to plus or minus 2. And over here, u would have to equal, well, let's see, add 7 and divide by 8, so square root of 7/8, but it's plus or minus that. Now I want to write it a little differently. I'm going to write as root 7, and the root of that is actually 2 root 2. I can multiply top and bottom by root 2. And what do you get? Plus or minus root 14 over 4. All right? So I'm going to say that at least I know what u is. All right? And there's a bunch of u's, by the way. So I want to go through it with you. And I know it's difficult. And someone says, so difficult, I don't think I could go on anymore. But I do want to claim over here that I have two different u's to deal with. U is 2, u is minus 2. All right? And by the way, when I say that, I'm just talking about this guy over here. But I also got this guy to deal with. All right? And that's this guy over here. And I'm going to say, u is equal to this over here. And I know I didn't write it down 2 times. But I just want to go through the work on that one over there. Like, for example, if u is 2, and again, I know it's very tedious. Let me get my eraser out, by the way. I'm going to look at letter A, and I just want to do that. And again, I'm going to leave sort of like this stuff as an exercise, because I think at this point, at least you got some idea what we have to do over here. And I'll just use the easy numbers now, all right? So let me get my, if u is 2. We'll talk about why v is plus or minus 1. And someone says, how do you do that? Well, you look around for something that's easy to do. Right? So I'm going to start off with the u being 2. And in this one over here, if u is 2, what would you get? Let me write that down for you. You're going to get 12 plus v squared is equal to 13. So I'm going to say, well, gee, what would that give you? That would give you v squared is equal to 1, which means v is equal to plus or minus 1. It's right there. all right? So what I want to do is talk about, how do you get the point now? Because we don't want the u and v, we want the x and y. So let's go back over that, all right? So I'm going to start to erase things like all this business over here. I really don't need it anymore. And I want to go back to this, this thing I'm given over here. And I want to point out what we're given over here. Remember, we have 2, 1, and we have 2 minus 1. And this is the ordered pair UV. But what I want the ordered pair XY. Well, I'm going to write that down now, given this over here. And so how would you do that? Well, X is U plus V. Let's do this one first. That's going to be 3. And the Y is going to be U minus V. Well, 2 minus 1 is going to be 1. So that's 1 point. Let's do this point. What is that going to give me? Let's write that down. This point here, well, what do you get? X is going to be U plus V. That's going to be 1. And what are you going to get for the Y? You're going to get U minus V, and that would give you 3. And that's where these are coming from. All right, that's where I'm getting these things over here. So you have to do it for each one, by the way. For example, the next one, you're going to try U to be minus 2. You can get this over here. You get these 2 points over here. And this is where the killer is. And I do mean it. It's the killer. And even doing these things over here, it did take me a considerable amount of effort to get through that, but I was able to get through that. After I do that work, though, I'll be honest with you, sometimes I wonder, did I get that right? Did I get it right? And so what I do is I graph it. And I'm going to back over here and look at the graph of the system. And I want to point out, so how do you graph that? Well, what I do is I use a graphic tool called Grapher, and I just type it in. And I type this in too, and I get these odd-looking curves over here. The next thing I do is I start plotting points, by the way, because I wondered, did I get that right? So the first point I plot is 3, 1. That's right there. Right, I do that point. You know what, I'm going to get my eraser out now and just tell you what I'm plotting here. And by the way, I actually plot it. So I plot this point first, 3, 1. Then I plot 1, 3. I see that. Then I plot minus 1, minus 3. You should see some symmetry out here. We're expecting that symmetric curve. Minus 3, minus 1. I'm seeing that. The other ones are killers, though. I really do mean that. Plotting these things out, I have to type it in. And I do it anyway. I mean, I type every single point in, and you can get a bunch of those, all right? So, which one's going to get? You're going to get these points over here, 1, 2, 3, 4. And yep, they've all been plotted out. And that's a problem. What's the problem going to be? It's typing problem is really the problem. So I'm going to say over here, I did this one. I leave this as an exercise. I think it's a pretty easy one. And this one for really motivated students to be able to get those points over there. You can do that too, by the way. How do you do it? Just like you did for A and B. What's the difference? It's the numbers are different. They're more difficult to deal with. And as you can plainly see in the answer, they're even more difficult to plot. Thank you.